Like so many other Republicans here in the state of Illinois, the gentleman running as the Republican nominee for lieutenant governor, Delmar, has absolutely no idea what he's talking about.
Pritzker team is running on a message of raising wages and lowering costs. How are you guys going to get better? How do you do better?
You know what? How about lifting all ships? Right? They talk about, we're going to make it more affordable. JB Pritzker is too darn hard to live here. But what has he been doing for the last 7 years? Why did you double the gas tax? That is a regressive tax. Why is property taxes in Illinois 27% higher than when you started? Why is Illinois now, right, an energy importer when 7 years ago we were an exporter of energy? And when JB Pritzker talks about, hey, we're going to be the #1 data center area 4 years ago, now he's talking about, the data centers need to be regulated and pay their fair share. He's talking out of both sides of his mouth. And this is what we're going to be highlighting to voters, if you're Republican, Independent, Democrat, Green Party, all throughout Illinois.
So let's get into it. He says, what the hell has JB been doing the last 7 years? Well, he's balanced the budget, raised our credit score, made sure that women can have access to the health care that they need, made sure that we weren't cooperating with Nazi regimes coming in here to disappear people off the streets. He's been growing our population, and we have been one of the #1 destinations for corporate relocations for the past several years. Those are a few of the things he's been doing. You said, why has he doubled the gas tax? Well, let's talk about it. Yes, it is true that in 2019, JB Pritzker signed the bill that ultimately ended up doubling the gas tax in this state, taking it from 19 to 38 cents per gallon. It was part of an overall $45 billion infrastructure bill. An infrastructure bill that was pushed and pushed and pushed by Republicans in this state who kept complaining about the infrastructure. One of those primary organizations that kept pushing it was this group called RUSH, Residents United for Safer Highways. They were one of the key groups that was pushing for the infrastructure bill in 2019. I know a little something about this group because it's a local group. It was founded by a gentleman who sits on my village board, a gentleman who's a little bit more conservative by nature. This organization cheered on that infrastructure bill that doubled the gas tax. A doubling of the gas tax that was needed in order to pay for all the infrastructure that people in this state kept bitching about. You then went on to say property taxes are up. Once again, for the 10 millionth time, that's a local issue. You guys keep wanting to point to the fact that JB Pritzker cut the program that gave state funding to local communities to help ease the property tax burden on their residents. But he did that because you guys kept bitching about how much money Springfield was spending. You wanted him to cut the budget, so he did. And now you're pissed that local communities have to raise the taxes in order to cover the bills that they need to cover. Well, which one do you want? Do you want him to spend the state money? Or do you not want him to spend the state money? You don't get it both ways. You then went on to talk about us being an energy importer. We are a net energy importer. And you're right, we are a net energy importer. However, we are a massive net exporter of electricity. We generate way more electricity than we need, and we have become one of the biggest net exporters in the country for electricity. You can see all of this information about how we are a major net exporter of electricity, and then read down here where it says, despite being a net exporter of electricity, the state is still highly dependent on outside sources of petroleum. And the last time that we were a net exporter of petroleum was in the 40s, not just 7 years ago, like you had sort of alluded to there. And the last thing you complained about was his position on data centers. Yes, a few years ago, he wanted to lead the nation in data centers. He has since come over to your side and said data centers need to be regulated, a position that Republicans have been advocating for quite some time. Seems like you guys would agree on something like this. But you said that he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. When you go around the state of Illinois and tell everybody that JB Pritzker is talking out of both sides of his mouth when it comes to data centers, are you also going to tell everybody about how for years and years and years, the guy who you're running with, Darren Bailey, said the Chicagoland area should be carved out of the state of Illinois, and that all of Illinois' problems come from Chicago and the surrounding counties, the collar counties, and that Chicago was a hellhole and Illinois didn't need it? Yet now he's renting an apartment in Chicago and says that all of the votes he needs to get are going to be found in Chicago. That's where the battle is going to be. Are you going to talk about talking out of both sides of your mouth there, or does that not fit the narrative? I can't wait for you motherfuckers to lose by over 20 points this time.